record on this computer. Okay, you should have gotten some comment about that. Okay, so in this one, again, the final exam right now, I have kept it hidden and I will open it up on December the 5th, okay? So there are multiple choice questions, and as usual, this is how I have set it up. So let me just give you the background so you know what to expect. We have been doing all these video assignments. So those video assignments, from the video number 7, just one question for 4 points. Video number 8, one question for 4 points. So there are a bunch of video questions, about 6. And you probably have already answered them as part of your homework. And then the course textbook reading questions, you guys have been doing a lot of homework, reading the book. And in the midterm, we did only chapters 1, 2, 3. So I thought I will have some questions from chapters 4 through, what about 11 or 12, 13, okay? And only one question per chapter. That's what I am picking. And essentially it will say, go to this particular page on the book and look at this section and then answer this question like that. This is also from the homework as such, okay? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 questions, I think, like that. Then comes the general questions. And this is where, all the concepts that we talk about in these videos and these kind of online conversations, I am taking some questions. That is what I call general questions. And I have been adding a lot of, new questions into this that are relevant for our discussions and things like that. That's what I'm doing. Plus, some other questions that we did as part of our top hat. I added some of those questions, and that is what I call the intro PowerPoint questions. Okay, so all of them are there. So having said that, probably it's time for me to do the top hat thing. So let me go into top hat. You can probably go into top hat and do this as well. So let me just open it up. Just give me a minute. So this is for the attendance, because I need to have the attendance to. Okay, so the code for attendance is 3444. Okay, 3444. That's the code. Let me go ahead and type it up in the chat box as well, in case if anybody needs it. Code is 3444. Okay, so I noticed that there were only 8 students in the class yesterday, like last Monday, but 9 attendance where 9 things were submitted. So I don't know whether the student just came, submitted, and left. I do pay attention, so please don't do that if anybody is there. So anyways, we have 9 students in the class right now and only 8 attendance. 8 have given attendance. So the 9th student, please give that attendance as well. The code is 3444. Anyway, so this is the setup when it comes to exam. And I hope I am sharing my screen right now. Okay. Now, there is another part to the exam, and that is your, what's it called? Essay questions. Okay. And this is where I am going back and forth on how to ask those essay questions. And I wanted to, we had 1/3 of our classroom time dedicated to the invited speakers. So I thought, what, I should ask those questions based on what they communicated. So this is what I have come up with, and I may change it a little bit. Okay, I don't know yet. And that is why I will wait until December the 5th to open up the exam. So in this question, you will have an option A or B. You can choose to answer any one of them. So you did a mind map like this for your midterm, and I thought I will continue to do that for the final exam as well. So, you are essentially continue and expand on that same midterm answer. Otherwise, you can talk about what you learned based on the interaction with Mr. Mike Zappa, Dr. Melly Pullman, or Mr. Nathan Carson, or Mr. Lester Charles. Okay, on the consumer product producers, what did they think about, tell about it. And you just have to give the speaker's name and what things you learned based on their inputs. Okay, now if you want, you can go back and refer to the videos, but then videos is too long and I don't expect you to do that. But I have been sending you all these emails after the interactions, and you can read those emails, and it has the bullet points and other things that I am, are the key points that I am emphasizing as part of those chat messages, and you can take some of them and put them here that are relevant for you. And please try to give a detailed answer. Okay, next is very similar but different set of speakers. My high school classmate V.S. Adagappan or Mr. Dave Guthiel from Port of Cleveland, or our last speaker, ATA alum, Taylor Wheaton, and then Hannah Scott, Glenn Mott, and Bill Azel. Okay, so what have you learned about inputs, government, global and international issues versus ag and food supply chains? Now, you don't have to answer all of them. You can either answer option A or option B. Okay, you choose either this or this, but try to give me a detailed answer. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. Now, this question I came up with, I may keep it or not keep it, I don't know. And this is like, hey, we have a Facebook page here. You click on that, it takes you to this particular page. And go ahead, read any 2 articles that you consider relevant for ag and food supply chains. And I would also appreciate if you click like, and you kind of, what are the key things that you learned about that particular thing based on reading the articles. Now you'll be thinking, oh my God, we are already reading a lot of articles. Why is he asking me to read more and more articles? Reading is extremely critical. Okay, if you want to succeed in the world of business, you have to be current. You have to know what is happening out there. And you have to bring in a lot of perspectives from various industries and things like that. Okay, so we saw a small video clip of how Costco has to change how it was sourcing coconut oil and coconut products from Indonesia because they were using monkeys, right? So it kind of tells you that people care about not just the product, but how the product was produced, transported, and ultimately, delivered to the customers. So people are paying attention to that. Similarly, how great supply chain organizations work. And that is what this course is all about. And if you read that, they will give you some real good advice. McKinsey.com is a real famous consulting company, and they are giving some good suggestions on what you can do about that. What else? And here they talk about Amazon and supply chains collide due to COVID-19 policies. So, there are lots of things you can learn, and I want you to read something very different from what you have been doing for your homework. And so that is why I gave that thing. And here again, supply chains creating problems for the farmers in India because government approved companies like Walmart to enter India. So you have to know all these things because this is what supply chain managers do almost all the times. Okay, so this is pretty much what you will be doing for your final exam. You will do about 25 multiple choice questions and about 3 essays. Okay, the 3 essays may take easily an hour, and the 25 essay questions, 25 multiple choice questions may take you about 30 minutes. So a total of 1 hour and 30 minutes, you should be able to do it. Make sense? Any questions on that? Okay, good. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I am always available to answer them. And I want to keep it pretty much simple. So we are done with all these 3 things, okay? Recording, attendance, and final exam. And we have been getting good SEI as well. So let me just open that up. Blue Era, something like that. And I believe it is this one. No, this one. And I typically give bonus points, and this is the first time I'm teaching this course. Okay, so for this course, so far 5 out of 18 students have given the feedback, and I encourage you to give me your SEI feedback. And I have always been getting a lot of anonymous comments. That is all good, but this is the formal comment that will count essentially when it goes to ATA and things. And feel free to share your insights. And one thing that I have to think about seriously is the number of assignments. Having said that, I do pay attention to it. And in fact, I just want to mention this as part of it. Yes, you did a lot of homework assignments over a long period of time, okay? About 48 assignments, I think, and then 10 speakers. Out of them, I will be dropping 22 scores, low scores. That is essentially, out of the 13 textbook reading quizzes, I dropped 5. And only 8 will count towards your grade. For video quizzes, there are 12 videos that you watch and I dropped 5. So 7 will count. And current news, you are doing 12. So if you did not do 5, it won't affect you because I dropped those scores and only 7 will count. So a total of 31 assignments will count. So 15 weeks, 31 means every week, 2 assignments. Plus, out of the 10 speakers, I expect you to have attended at least 5, okay? So if you missed 5, your score will not be affected. But if you have missed, 8 or 9, and there are some students who have missed that many speakers, that will affect their grade. So that is with regard to the speakers and the assignments. So any questions on that? So
Yes, I have a quick question, Professor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like for the article readings, I've missed 3 assignments, not realizing you only drop 1 score. Could I do those 2 assignments that I missed?
Yeah, you can. I always
Okay.
make late homework, okay?
Okay, and how often do you update the late homework grade?
I typically do that right away, okay?
Okay.
But right now I am kind of taking it a little slow because I want everybody to submit their homework so that I can do all the late homework in one shot. So I'm waiting on
Okay.
that.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Yeah, so I will be doing it pretty quick. By the December, I'm going to wait until the December 4th, the Friday, and then I will grade it on Friday evening or Saturday morning, okay? Friday evening, if I am doing it, then you will know that I don't have a life, right? But then we are in a pandemic, so I'm not going anywhere. So I may grade it on December 4th or December 5th. So those things will reflect on that pretty soon, okay? Okay, any questions on that? Any other questions on that? Okay, so we have been, talking a lot of new topics. Probably it's not a good idea to do that. And as you can see here, supply chain is a real big area, okay? You can cover only so much. And especially in a pandemic hit semester through Zoom, meeting only twice a week, we can do only so much. And that is one reason I did not want to put too much amount of, calculations and things like that. But then calculations are huge part of your supply chain management. You are dealing with numbers. You have to ask yourself, how much does it cost me for me to order, for me to process, for me to package it and store it and then ship it? And, how long does it take? So you have to do all these different calculations. And that is where you have to ask yourself, how am I going to optimize my supply chain? That is, how am I going to minimize my cost or maximize my profit? Okay, so there are 2 things you can do as part of supply chains. And this is what I tried to do last class. Are you seeing my Excel sheet right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is where, unfortunately, your screens were not updating properly. So I made a quick video and I posted it to the YouTube channel and also send you a link. So there are some questions on this for your exam as well. It may come to you, so just pay attention to this. One more time, I'll do it pretty quick. So you always have to start with the customer demand, okay? So that's lesson number 1 that you have to pay attention to, okay? Always start with the demand. Ask yourself how many chips packets, okay, will be bought in Cleveland and Columbus. We are just taking randomly 2 customers. It could be 3 customers, 4 customers, or multiple locations. And you know that the storage costs in Akron distributor, and you are producing it in Grove City, and your storage costs are 55 cents in both the places per packet. And then the transport costs from Akron to Cleveland, from Akron to Columbus, Grove City to Cleveland, Grove City to Columbus. They are all put here. Now, the question is, how are we going to meet this 200 plus 500 demand? Okay, how many units will go from Akron to Cleveland, Akron to Columbus? That's a decision you need to make. Similarly, Grove City to Cleveland, Grove City to Columbus. Right now, we don't know these numbers, right? So and these are the numbers we need to choose so that we can minimize our total cost of transport. In that case, since we are going to choose them, we call them as choice variable or decision variables, okay? So that is one of your final exam questions. So please remember, decision variable is what you will be choosing. Now, what is the criteria that you want to choose them on? Your criteria is to minimize the total cost, and the total cost right now is 370, but then we are meeting only 2 units in each places. We have to meet all the 200 plus 500, 700 packets per week demand. So how do we know how to produce it? So you essentially go into data. Under that, you will see what happened. Ouch. Sometimes if it is not there, you have to activate it under add-ins. You will have that analysis tool pack or something. It should be there. It is there. Where is the solver? Solver will always be sitting here. Oops. Okay, come on. Oh, come on. I had it tested last class and now it's not there. Okay, it's not helping me. So under solver, you will essentially say that I want to minimize this cell H14 where you have coded the total cost of production, okay, total cost of transportation. And how do you minimize it? By reducing these particular decision variables. So you will be reducing them by choosing these variables. And if you do this, you will find that your total cost will be reduced when you transport all the Cleveland demand based on your Akron location and all your Columbus demand based on your Grove City, all your Columbus demand will from the Grove City location. So if you do this, this number, this is the lowest. If you do any other combination, let's say you do say 195 and 5 from here, that cost will go up, okay? And in any other manner, the cost will go up. So the best option is for you to do this particular combination, okay? And how do you know that? How can you do this? That is where you will use this solver software, which I am unable to locate right now. And I don't want to be spending time on making it active and all. But the point is, now we are able to supply 200 units to Cleveland to meet the demand in Cleveland. And we are able to supply 500 units in Columbus to meet the demand of 500 units in Columbus, okay? So this is how the optimization works. And this is what I want you to be aware of as part of your supply chain procedures. Now, here I am showing you a simple spreadsheet framework. But then in real life, you will use very advanced software. In fact, you can optimize your production and things like that using this AnyLogistics software. It is essentially doing that optimization, the same type of things. Should you transport it from your warehouse in Akron or Grove City to Columbus or Cleveland? That's the type of thing. But they are doing it for hundreds of customers from tens of different warehouses and distribution centers. So that is the whole idea behind using this type of a software, okay? And as you might know, there are different ways how you can do that. So we did that, and unfortunately, I could not run it again. You can go and see that thing over there. In that video clip I have done, okay? And always remember that you have to start with demand and you have to estimate and forecast demand. So let me show you one another thing when it comes to forecasting that demand, okay? So here, there are various ways to forecast demand, okay? One of the things that you can do when it comes to forecasting demand is use the historical sales, okay? So you can use the historical sales and then project it into the future. Let's say you have been selling, some kind of chips packets or something like that. Or again, I'm going for chips, maybe salsa, nachos or something like that. On day 1, you sold about 4 units. And then day 2, you sold about 5 units. On day 3, about 3 units. So what happened was, in the past 45 days, okay, in the past 45 days, you have the sales of what happened over a period of time. Okay, and it has been growing as these dots are showing. You will be able to plot it. So the point here is you have to use graphs as part of your managing the supply chain and making sure that you are you are communicating the idea very well with your customers or with your partners, with your managers and things like that. So I essentially plotted the demand for your nacho plates or packets, whatever it is, over a period of time. Now, the thing is, I want to use this historical data to project it into the future. Okay, so how do I do that? So in Excel, it's very simple. You just go there, right click, and then you see this button that says add trend line. Just click on that. And when you add trend line, okay, I already added a trend line, okay, here that it shows like that. Now I can choose. Okay, so let me do this. So add trend line. So, oh, come on. So this is where I have, okay, I essentially have plotted all the 45 days worth of demand. So on the vertical axis, it's the number of packets I have sold. And on the horizontal axis is the time, okay? So I have done it. You just right click and then add trend line. And if you put a trend line, it's a linear trend line, okay? Now, I want to forecast it into the future. How many units? Maybe I want to forecast it for the next 30 days, let's say. And if I do that, a linear demand says that by day 60, I should be expecting about 11.5 demand, okay? Or by day 75, my demand will be about 14 units. But then it may not be the right one, okay? Sometimes you have to choose an exponential demand. If you go by exponential demand, then my demand on day 75 would actually be, say, 19 units, okay? Now, which is right? Is it exponential demand or linear demand? It all depends on your understanding of the market, okay? What do you really expect in the market to happen? This is where this type of supply chain modeling and then forecasting demand is both science and also an art. Okay, science because there is a technique that we are using. For instance, when you are doing it, you are using a particular equation to forecast the demand. So there is some kind of equation, mathematical equation, and that is essentially telling you that, hey, you know what? There is an equation that we are using it to project it into the future. But then sometimes, is it going to be an exponential demand or an linear demand? That you have to decide, okay? And if you can actually project both of them, so you can do both of them and then see, okay, you know what? This is my linear demand projection. This is my exponential demand projection. Let me see the difference between them. And accordingly, maybe you can choose somewhere in the middle and say that, okay, my demand, I am expecting on day 75 to be not 14, not 18, maybe 16. Now, this is what you have to go and convince your team of, okay? And you have to tell the team, hey, you know what? We are expecting the demand to be about 16 units or 17 units. And accordingly, we have to prepare, we have to buy the inputs, and we have to process things and be ready. Now, so there is science behind it because we are using some mathematical modeling and statistical modeling. At the same time, we are also using, a decision based upon two different models, and we choose, oh, you know what, it's going to be the average of these two. Now, you can also use a logarithmic function. Now, logarithmic function doesn't make sense. It says that your demand is going to go down or it's going to saturate. Now, if this were to happen, probably this is not going to be good. Now, if the weather is not going to be so conducive, maybe this is what you will expect as part of your demand. Sometimes you can use polynomials, okay? So polynomial demands, it can do anything you want. Now you have to choose the right one, which is the right one. That all depends on your subjective understanding. That is where it becomes an art, okay? forecasting demand is not perfect science. Yes, you can use formulas, but which formula are you going to pick? That is the big challenge. Okay, so you have to choose a whole bunch of different things while you are going to be doing all these different type of projections. So it's both science and art when it comes to forecasting demand. And remember that demand forecasting is extremely important, okay? Because everything starts with the customer wanting to buy something from you. And if the customer is not buying from you, you don't have a business, you don't have a supply chain, you don't have anything to go about, right? So that's one thing. And also, I just mainly briefly want to mention this. There is something called exponential triple smoothing forecast, okay? Excel has made it a lot more simpler for you. So you can simply forecast using linear demand or exponential triple smoothing demand. And, once you do these kind of things, I mean, we can spend a lot of time, but it tells you what is the target date you are trying to project the demand for. And then what are the previous historical values? And then is there any seasonality in the data? And is the data complete, and those kind of things you have to put. Okay, so you can use these simple formulas and use simple Excel templates to forecast your demand into the future. And having this in your, so first of all, you have to document and you have to keep track of your historical sales, and you have to use it to make, very educated projections into the future so that your business will flourish, will succeed. Okay, so that is where I'm going to stop on that, because I don't want to get any more detail than that. I had picked a whole bunch of Excel sheets that I wanted to show you, but then we are not doing anything in this class because we had probably too many speakers. Okay, I don't know whether anybody felt like we had too many speakers. Some of you might have felt that. And if you go here, this is these are the Excel files that I had collected over a period of time as I was teaching. I could have done this whole supply chain using Excel sheets, a discussion of all these Excel sheets. But then I'm not going to do that. I just want to keep it simple and straightforward. And there are lots of quantitative decisions you need to make. You can do it through Excel, or you can do it through some other advanced software, okay? And in fact, you might have done some things like that. For instance, if you go here to Google, which is where I go all the time, and then you simply type, supply chain software, okay? You get a whole bunch. In fact, you would be so surprised how many types of software are there. And if you're going to be working for real big companies like Kroger, okay, or even, the people that came and talked in our class like Freshmark or Gerber Poultry, they will have their own supply chain software. And if you're going to be working for them, you have to learn that software. I'm sure Taylor Wheaton is dealing with one particular software to keep track of her truckers and see if there is any particular accident or anything going on, so that she can update the customers. She can contact 911 and other kind of people, okay? So you will see a whole bunch of software that will essentially help you project demand and optimize your supply chains, reduce the cost, and maximize profits. So this is what they will be doing. And there is a lot going on here, okay? And I will just leave it at that. And everybody will be doing some type of optimization, some type of demand projections and things like that. So just be aware of it, and being aware of it is good enough, okay, as part of this class, especially for this semester because of the COVID and things like that, okay? So any questions on that? You have to know how to use simple Excel spreadsheet software to keep track of your business. If it is a small business, even an agricultural farm, you will be able to keep track of a whole bunch of data through Excel, okay? And you have to learn how to optimize, and there is a solver software. I'm unable to open it up. I apologize for that. For some reason, it kind of got hidden somewhere. And then the third thing is you have to start with demand every single time. And to project demand, there is both science and art, okay? Science, because you will be using some type of mathematical formulas. So there is science involved in it, okay, statistical projections into the future. At the same time, you can do it in any manner you want, okay? You can do a linear, you can do a logarithmic, you can do a power function. So different functions will give you different results, which is right. And that depends on, you know, your team and what you think, what you know about it. And that is where you have to say, this is this demand according to this model, this is the demand according to this model. Now let us see, maybe the demand is somewhere in between. And you have to talk about that within your company, within your team, within your group. And then you have to come up with, you know, an overall realistic projection and go for that. So demand forecasting is both science and art. Okay, so that is the key message that I want to communicate. Any questions on that? We have the last 21 minutes in this class. Okay, it's 1:14 and our class ends at 1:35. Any questions? I hope you find this to be useful, and I hope you all have used Excel in some capacity. ATA students, especially in the applied science program, they have taken some Excel classes, I think. And the Excel is a powerful software, actually. You can code a lot of data through Excel. The thing is, you have to learn Excel. You have to think about all the data and functionalities and things like that. So I would encourage you to, you know, learn whatever software. It need not be Excel. It could be anything else, but you have to learn the software. We talked about AnyLogistics. We talked about Excel here a little bit. But then, you know, there is a lot many things out there. So they are all the key lessons that I want you to take away from this course, that these things are all out there and you have to use that for making your calculations, okay? So having said that, I'm just going to do a couple of simulations and hopefully the simulations work. Okay, so this is the major thing I wanted to emphasize. So, and as I said, you know, you can use this kind of Excel spreadsheets and software to keep track of your inventory costs, okay? And how the storage costs and the transport costs can be different depending upon how many distribution centers and warehouses you have. So you have to think about that. In fact, this is what I have been working on, putting together some questions on. So let me go and type this one. As usual, go to Google and then type, what did I type? Okay, so this is what I want to mainly show you, okay? So this is a very important graph that I want the students to know. So here it is. So let me view the image. Okay, so this is very, very important. So as part of your business, okay, you will be ordering various inputs, or you will be storing your outputs in your warehouses, okay? Depending upon the quantity, your cost can be different, okay? Am I sharing the right screen? Yes, I'm sharing number 1 screen. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so here what I am trying to tell here is, hey, you know what? If you order a lot of quantity, okay, say you are going to be ordering for the next 6 months, let's say. So in that case, you are going to be placing only 2 orders per year, right? So your ordering cost will be very less, okay? And you will have a lot of items in your inventory that you will never run out of stock, okay? So those costs will be very high if you place very high order quantity. But if you place less order quantity, then frequently you will run out of stock, so you have to make more and more orders. So your cost can be very high, okay? So based on the quantity that you order, your cost can be different. And that is what this line shows. And as you can see here, the more you order, the costs are declining because you will be having less procurement cost, less ordering costs, less out of stock costs, okay? Whereas if you order more, you have to store them, right? To make chips, you have to order potatoes, and the potatoes have to be stored properly, otherwise they will rot. So your carrying cost, that is your inventory cost, can be very high as you order more and more. So one is declining, another is increasing. And if you add both the things, okay, vertically. So let us pick this particular point and you add how much carrying cost and how much the procurement cost. When you add both of them, you get your total cost, and that is this line, and that is U-shaped. Okay, what is the meaning of a U shape? It essentially says, hey, you know what? Up to a certain quantity that you order, the costs are falling. Okay, if the costs fall, it's good for you as a supply chain manager, right? Because your costs are falling and you have more quantity that you can process and sell, so you are in good shape. So the costs are falling. But after a certain point, what happens? The carrying costs take over. You are ordering too much and your carrying costs are taking over, that the costs start to increase. That means that you have to find the lowest point in your U curve, and wherever that curve is, that is the optimal quantity that you may want to choose to order. Okay, so that is the key message here. So depending upon how much you order, the cost can be declining or increasing, and that is same for even transport costs as well. So where is that? So here is a nice graph, and this is a picture that I have been looking at that as well. For instance, you have to choose how many units you are going to be transporting to your customers. Number of warehouses on the horizontal axis. If you have a lot of warehouses, say 10 different warehouses in all different parts of the country, then your warehousing cost, the green line, keeps increasing. Okay, just like your procurement cost in the earlier case, I guess. Whereas if you have a lot of warehouses, you have multiple locations, so the transport cost to the customers will be declining. Okay, so it will be very less if you have many warehouses, and if you have 1 or 2 warehouses, your transport cost will be very high, because all your output is actually somewhere in the Midwest, and you have to send it to the East Coast and West Coast, so your transport cost can be high. Again, the total logistics cost, excuse me, is actually the sum of warehousing cost for this particular quantity plus the transport cost. That is your total cost. Similarly, if you have many warehouses, what is the transport cost and what is the warehousing cost? You add both of them up, and that is your total cost. And in this case, it is this brownish U-shaped curve that also tells you where is the lowest point. And there is a low point in this U-shaped curve. So whenever I say U-shape, I'm essentially saying that the cost will fall up to a certain level, it will reach a minimum, and then it will start to go up. Okay, and you have to find the lowest point, and that is the right number of warehouses for you, or that is the right number of shipment sizes if you are measuring quantity. So here you are measuring quantity of your output or input or your warehouse, and here you are measuring costs on the vertical axis. Okay, so you have to keep track of them. How do you keep track of them? Again, you can keep track of them using your Excel sheets. Okay, you just have to kind of keep track of, warehouse, and then you have to project that also. 1 warehouse, what will be the cost? 2 warehouses, how many cost? 3 warehouse, and you have to collect a lot of data. So it's not easy. And then transport costs. You have to keep track of that also. Now, again, transport costs can be different based upon whether you are using trucks or small trucks or big trucks, or you are going to be using a third-party providers. Similarly, what are the the warehouse management costs? Now, if you are going to have a warehouse in a big city like New York City or say Los Angeles, your warehouse cost can be very high. Whereas if it is going to be in the Midwest, somewhere in Worcester, probably it won't be that high. So these are the main things that I want you to think about. So transport costs, warehouse management costs, you have to keep track of all of them, and then choose whether I want to have only 1 warehouse or 4 warehouses based upon this particular graph that I showed you. Okay, and remember that your total cost will often have a U shape. And where is it lowest? You have to find out, and that's your challenge as a supply chain manager. Okay, so that's about it for that. Any questions on that? I know I am kind of introducing a lot of content, new content, but these are all some important things that you have to ask yourself. Now, if you read the book, they will talk about reorder point, reorder quantity, how much spoilage can happen in inventory. I don't want to get into all of those details because, that's like your second course or third course. Remember that these are some other important concepts. I won't ask you any questions on that, except for some book reading questions. But other than that, These are all the major things that I wanted to emphasize as part of our course, okay? Any questions? I know this is a lot of content that we covered. Any questions? So we are kind of at the very end of the semester. This is pretty much the last class, and we have some homework due tonight, so please go ahead and do that. So this is the simulation that I wanted to show you, and my computer did not load it for whatever reason that was. So in this AnyLogic software, they also have developed various online models, okay? This is what we call simulation. So what is a simulation? It's essentially an online game, okay? Where you are going to be looking at, okay, click on. So once you go into this, there is a particular warehouse, okay? This is where you are collecting and doing different things. And you are just going to run the simulation, okay? And you can increase the speed so that it goes a little faster for you, okay? So you can see the truck comes and goes. And the overall thing that I am trying to tell here is actually the statistics, okay? Now, as you can see here, the trucks are coming in, the operators are working, and the workers and forklifts, okay? I briefly mentioned this last class. Now, if you play this game continuously at a very high speed, you will see that you will run out of space, okay, after a while, because forklifts are not used at all. You can see that the utilization percentage is only 29 or 30%, whereas workers are working 91%, okay? But all of a sudden, the simulation stops saying that, hey, there are no empty cells in storage pallet rack. That means here in this particular simulation, okay, the lack of space is going to be the primary thing that you have to pay attention to. Oops. So in this particular simulation, what is happening here is you have to invest more in the storage space. Maybe that is the way how you can go good. And that's the point of doing all these different simulations, okay? And also remember that when you are developing these type of AnyLogic models, there is a very complicated things, and you can see the supply chain source, how it is kind of moving from one segment to another segment, and how ultimately it leaves. And they do all these things, and I want you to remember all these things. And if you kind of play around with it in the context of your business, you will know where the bottlenecks are, where the problems are, where the constraints are, okay? So finding out all those constraints is a really big deal when it comes to your supply chains, okay? And that is why the companies are paying you. They want you to find out those bottlenecks so that you can overcome them, okay? So remember that. Now, similarly, there is another thing called, so let's click on this one. Inventory management. So there is another model. In fact, AnyLogic has a whole bunch of models, okay? And you would be so surprised to see the number of models that they have provided for you to play around with. So if you are really interested in knowing all these different type of supply chain simulations, I encourage you to go to this cloud.anylogic.com, and they have a supply chain section. So what is this model? Now, this is a very interesting model. I should have really done that. Unfortunately, we had all other things going on, so I could not do that. So here is a retailer, okay? What are they retailing? They are actually selling beer. And here is the factory. The factory will sell it to a distributor, and the distributor will sell to wholesaler, and the wholesaler will sell it to the retailer, and retailer will sell it to the customer, okay? And they all have to order different quantities. As you can see here, how much the retailer places as an order, how much order the wholesaler will place with the distributor, and how much the distributor will place with the factory, and how much the factory will produce for the next round, for the next time, okay? So this can go at a very quick pace. So right now you carry inventory, okay? So there are 40 units in the inventory, 50 units in the inventory with the wholesaler. Now, when you carry inventory, there are storage costs, okay? You can see those costs over here. Now, when you play around this game, okay, let us start with 5. I'm just randomly picking this. And you can go to the next step. And when you play this game, okay, so you can see that the numbers are changing, okay? And you have to kind of put in a lot of data, a lot of inputs, and then see when those units will be delivered to you, and accordingly how you will be able to make the right, ordering decision for the next time period. And if you do this, you will find that all of a sudden, okay, if there is a small change in the customer level, that will show up at the retailer first. And then the retailer will be feeling like, oh my God, I am running out of stock. So they will end up placing different amount of order with the wholesaler. And wholesaler will be all of a sudden feeling like, oh, the customers want a lot. So they will place a lot of orders with the distributor, and the distributor will change their orders, and they will place different orders with the factory. So the whole point here is bullwhip effect. This is what I am trying to show you. Okay, so when you play that game for a long period of time, you will see this type of an effect. What happens is when the customer changes their demand just a little bit, okay? So let us say, they regularly buy 5 units, okay? Instead of 5 units, the customer changed their demand from 5 to 10 units or 5 to 7 units, let's say. Then the retailer will run out of stock because the retailer has been stocking only for 5 units so far, and all of a sudden they have, there is a backup order, right? So to fill the backup order, they will increase their ordering amount with the distributor. And the distributor will be all of a sudden feel like, oh, I have to carry a lot more inventory. So they will place more order with the manufacturer. And if you play this game over a period of time, you can see that small changes at the customer level will result in huge changes down the supply chain. I'm talking about upstream, that is towards the manufacturer and distributor and the company that produces it. So that is what we call the bullwhip effect. Okay, so what can you do about the bullwhip effect? The bullwhip effect essentially tells that, hey, you know what? If you don't coordinate with your customers very well, then you may be looking at huge inventory costs, okay? So you have to coordinate with your supply chain on an entire basis to make sure that everything happens, everybody knows what is happening, whether the increase in demand is just this particular season, or is it going to be there for the next 5 or 10 weeks that we have to continuously produce more and more, So these are the type of things you have to really pay attention to, and that is where the interaction among the customers, the interaction among the different supply chain participants become very critical. They have to communicate on a regular basis. They need to have their software systems interact with on a regular basis. So even if you are not communicating on the phone, it's not like you take the phone and you call somebody. The software automatically talks to each other, and accordingly it changes up there or reordering levels, and then it kind of makes sure that there is enough stock in the right place at the right time. You can talk about it, and you can understand it from a theoretical and conceptual viewpoint, but then actually making it happen in the real world, that is what supply chain managers do, okay? As students, as teacher of supply chain management, we can just talk about it, and hopefully you will have the tools, you will understand the importance of communication and coordination with the entire supply chain so that you will not go out of stock. You will make sure that there is enough supply at the right quality without any spoilage, without any risk that we have been seeing with the COVID-19 supply chain, COVID-19 pandemic risks and those kind of things. So there are lots and lots of things that you have to think about as part of your supply chains management, okay? And all the things that I mentioned in the beginning of the semester, your product. First of all, start with the customer. See how much demand they have, and accordingly you have to see who are the other people in the supply chain. How do you communicate? What is the technology that you need to communicate with them? Are you going to use only Excel spreadsheets on an individual computer, or you are going to have it spread across all your distributors so that you can communicate whatever you see on your screen is what they see on their screen, okay? And how much of that is proprietary information that you want to share or not share? What level of trust you have with your supply chain partners? All of them does matter. And we did talk about them. The invited speaker that came to our class also kind of hinted at that at many times, you know, and you have to understand the industry, okay, how the things are all linked together. And also other concepts such as sustainability. That's very, very important. Sustainability is, yes, I can produce a product. Yes, I can move it to the customer. Yes, I can make a profit. But then what is happening to the monkeys in Indonesia? The monkeys are being tortured to get my coconuts. Now, that is the type of question Costco is facing, right? And similarly, there are other you know, environmental aspects that you need to focus on. Yes, I'm able to produce the shoes, but then if the shoes are going to be stitched by slave labor, probably that's not a good sign, right? So you have to pay attention to these little things, these important things, because that can really make all the difference. So please pay attention to all these things. And the more you read, especially the current news, you will be served well, okay? So these are all the major things that I wanted to emphasize for this course. And this is what I could do as part of, you know, this kind of Zoom class. And in case if it were like a one-on-one class, maybe it would have been a lot more interactive, where everybody is working on actual software and using spreadsheets and developing a real big set of resources for you to take forward. But still, I think many of you learned some important concepts by reading and watching videos and things like that, okay? If you have any questions, please check with me. And there are some pieces of homework due tonight. If you have already done well in the past, you can very well ignore them. But then if you want to learn something new, please go ahead and do that. And that will also teach you more concepts about supply chains. My idea for this supply chains course was to understand the concept, okay, the conceptual level. Oh, this is something that I need to know. And if I read these particular articles, if I do this homework, I get the feel for it. If you get the feel for it, that's more than enough for fall 2020, okay? But for any other regular semester, probably you have to do more. But then you guys did a lot of homework, okay? And I am dropping a lot of that as well. On an average, we are counting about 2 homework per week towards your grade, okay? So that's pretty much what I have got to say. I'm really glad that you all stuck around, and you know, I really feel happy about your being here. Thank you very much for attending this class. Today is the last class, no more classes after this. Please do the homework, and there will be exams, and I will be sending some emails, about 3 or 4 emails between now and the end of the exam time. So please keep up with them. If you have any questions, check with me. Otherwise, good luck managing your supply chains, okay? So I will see you some other time. Take care. I will catch up with you. Hopefully I will see you. You know, maybe some of you may be graduating and moving on, because next semester is also going to be online, I think, okay? So better luck for your career and your future career aspirations, and consider supply chains, because that is pretty much business. And most of you are business students, and you will benefit having a new perspective, and that's what supply chains are all about, okay? You guys are welcome to log out. Thank you very much. I will look forward to your final exam answers and questions, okay? Bye. Thank you.